Okay, Gloria, we're live.
Okay, great. I'll call the Upper Arlington Public Library Board of Trustees meeting of Tuesday, August 18th, 2020 to order, please. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have a consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? I would like to just express appreciation for all the donations and the list that Beth provided. I think we've done amazingly well in the, what is it, 6 months or so, last 6 months or so. So just want to say thank you to everybody who has supported us. I did have one question, Beth. Have you ever gotten anything from the Columbus Foundation?
No, right, Lori?
No, I got it. We got from the big give just under $10,000.
Oh, wow.
Got it, yes.
Oh, great.
And that included about $680 matching from the foundation. So yeah, got that last week.
Yeah.
And did you get any names with that?
Yes, and they've been incorporated into the donation list. I believe Allison added them.
They will be reflected on the August donations. We received
on
the
the next
deposit
one.
in August, yes.
Okay, thanks.
But we did receive donation from Tri-Village Rotary and our friends of the library, and we also received a very significant donation from an anonymous donor.
Right. Yes, it was wonderful. So well, you'll talk about this later probably, Beth, but our renovations to the youth area can proceed, I think, right? And we'll hear more about that. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
The motion passes. You didn't mean that as being opposed, did you, John?
No,
Okay.
I was just low.
Maybe the first in the history of the Upper Arlington Library.
It flashed that my internet was disconnected. I said, what?
Oh, okay,
Looking at
good,
that.
good. Okay, so that motion passes to approve the consent agenda. Public comments, I don't see anybody. And Kate, unfortunately, is not here. Kate Porter. Beth, did you know if she had anything or anything you wanted to say in her stead?
No, I didn't have anything listed for her report, no.
Okay, thank you. Then you're up, Beth.
So the Franklin County is still at a level 3 health advisory for COVID. So we're still operating and providing curbside service. I wanted to provide you with some weekly statistics. So on page 15, we have unique patrons transacting physical. What I wanted to see was how many patrons are we serving, even though the physical library building is not open. How many patrons are we seeing coming through doing curbside every week? And as you can see, we started in May, we were very low, and we're averaging over 2,000 individuals coming through our curbside every week. In comparison, the same time last year for a week in June, we saw about 2,800 individuals transacting, which means they were able to come into the building and check physical materials out. Now, this is not visitors, people coming in to use meeting rooms or computers or anything like that. This is just people coming into the building to check out. So we're still doing an enormous amount of circulation, serving a considerable amount of people, even though the building itself is not open or it's only open for computer appointments.
That 2,800 number from last year, does that include all the branches or was that just at?
That's
Tremont?
only Tremont. That's just Tremont. Yeah. Thank you. That's a good question. Yeah. So main library, I was looking at main library only. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're not doing any business currently at the branches. So that's just comparing service at Main. Physical items circulated. our peak was the week of July 20th. We circulated, these are physical items, 7,844 items. So that means that all of those items were physically handled by my staff, taking them out to curbside and giving them to those 2,000 some patrons in 1 week. So it's pretty significant, the amount of work that they're doing. So, and we're being used very heavily. And in comparison, I wanted to just share with you our e-media statistics, because you would think that our e-media transactions would either be going down with the number of people picking up physical items, or going up because we're not open to the public. But our e-media statistics are averaging around 4,000 circulation per week. And we're really not seeing much of an increase or a decrease in e-media. So it's typically the same number of patrons that are checking out e-media. We haven't seen, it just, at least during this time period. We did see a spike when we closed. I think we jumped like 40%, but over the time that we've been closed, we haven't really seen an increase. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The other, on page 16, if you look at the items sent and items received, these are also, I wanted to see the physical items that my staff are handling on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. So this shows you the items that were checked in. These are through book drop, and I'm assuming also delivery. So in 1 week, our peak was the week of 4th of July. We saw over 23,000 items were checked in. So again, those are all items that are physically handled by the staff at Main Library. And then items sent, which is items that we're sending out of the building, are, again, around 5,000. So it's just a significant amount that staff are working with right now. And it's also interesting to consider that we have just now had most of our staff back. We still have some staff that aren't even in the building yet. So again, we're also working with short amount of staff as well. And then I also wanted to share with you the items held and the items circulated. We are holding all of the items that are being for all 3 of our locations here at Tremont. And I wanted to see what that volume is. And you can see on page 16 that the more items that are becoming held, the more items that are being sent out. So again, we saw, like, if you look at the week of July 6th, we had about 7,420 items that were held, and almost the same amount of items went out the door that week too. So it's just, I was pretty amazed at some of these statistics, and just showing, I mean, I go out there and I see my staff working, but really the numbers speak volumes. Did you have any questions about the statistics, about the library operation stats?
I appreciate that. I really like that when I was looking at these. It kind of gave a better perspective on exactly what's going on. It quantifies it with what we've seen. So
Right.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Beth, I want to comment on when I've gone to pick up stuff. I've recognized members of your senior staff. I don't want to single any one person out because they're all doing it. But that to me is a sign of a very good organization where everybody pitches in to get done what needs to be done. So our thank you and congratulations to all of you.
Yeah, no, everybody has been doing curbside. Allison, like, pretty much everybody. And I can tell you, it's backbreaking work. I went out there and I did 1 hour as checking people's names, and it was probably 90 degrees outside. And I luckily it was right before my lunch break, so I could go home and change. So yeah, so everybody that's done curbside is doing a great job, and it's everybody. It's administration, leadership team, everybody's been pitching in. They're doing a great job. So
Right. I second that as well. It's so impressive because I've seen the same thing, from the staff that I usually see who just sit and help you when you check out, when you self-check out in the past, to all of you. So I agree with Bill. It's a mark of, a very cohesive staff. So
yeah,
it's been great seeing some of the Miller Park librarians also.
We're not letting them go just yet. They're going to stay and help us for a little while. Right. Yeah. Well, and just as a quick anecdote, I went, I need to get glasses, and I went for my eye appointment, and the eye doctor asked me, what do you do? And I said, I'm a librarian. He's like, oh, where? And I said, oh, Upper Arlington. And he's like, oh, I love that library. He's like, I use the Miller Park branch all the time. And he's like, when are you guys going to open? He goes, I have been using curbside. It's amazing. So thank you, Dr. Crawford. Yeah, it was great. So it was nice even to be out in the community and hear that positive feedback. So, but yeah, and I'll share updated statistics at the next board meeting as well through the weeks. So that was all for operations stats. I can move on to staffing, if you like to do it. So all of our part-time staff will return to the library by the beginning of September. Unfortunately, we have had 5 part-time staff members and 1 full-time staff member resign due to issues related to the pandemic, whether or not they felt safe coming back into the library or if they had other employment and the current schedule isn't working for them. There were various reasons. So even though on your quarterly staffing report on page 17, it shows that we had 1 resignation and 1 new hire as of the 2nd quarter. This is the end of June. And so as we started requesting staff to come back, this is what we're seeing in August. So I just wanted to share that with you before the next board meeting. We do have a full-time courier custodian position posted. And that is basically due to the fact that we have an extreme amount of cleaning that we need to do during the pandemic, and we don't have anyone servicing our branches. And we're looking forward to the time when we can start providing service at the branches, but we need to have on-site staff to be able to clean on a regular basis. So, any questions about the staffing report?
So, so you have a lot of people who work at the branches who are helping at Tremont right now. Almost everybody's back.
Right, almost everyone. We have Lane Road staff are currently at Lane Road, but they have a lot of prep to do before we can provide any kind of service at that building. So they are weeding the collection. They are, we were over there. What day were we over there, Greg? We were helping them move workstations around and put plexiglass. Sometime last week, I think.
Yeah, I believe that was last Friday. There's also a considerable amount of backlog of deliveries and a lot of processing work and things like that too. So they're doing a great job of working our way through that right now.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Yeah, so we're hopefully planning to provide some service at the branches in the future, in the near future, hopefully, at least at Lane Road, we're going to start there. And then we're talking through, what do we do at Miller Park?
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. I wanted to move on to our proposed timetable for the levy. You'll see on page 18, this was given to us by Brecker and Eckler, which basically tells us the timeline of action that the board needs to take in order to put a levy on the ballot on May 3rd, 2022. So I'm just sharing that with you. Basically, the first process that the board would need to do would be September 21st. I am going to have another timeline available for operations committee that reflects any work that campaign committee or library would need to do before that as well. Thoughts, comments on levy planning?
Beth, the timeline you mentioned, you
Yes.
should probably also share that with finance.
Finance, exactly. Yes, I definitely will.
I think, and you know this, I know, Beth, you've done a couple of professional development things on the levy, but we have to be really, really careful what the library staff and the library can do versus what whoever does the campaigning and stuff.
Right. Yeah, it would be completely, off library time. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And if there aren't any other questions about the levy timeline, I did want to share with you an update about our early learning play area that we've been planning for a very long time here at the main library. We have raised enough money from a generous anonymous donation from the Friends of the Library, Tri-Village Rotary, and other donations to be able to start the process of the Early Learning Play Center. I know months ago I had shared diagrams with you and renderings from the company. So the company was EMD, and they have recently merged with American Elements, but we're still working with the same company. They sent us an updated contract and information. And we did put down the deposit, correct, Lori?
Yes.
Yep, so we put down the deposit, and the next steps for the early learning play area is they will give us designs, final designs that we can sign off on in September. In the meantime, the Youth Services Department has moved some shelving, so it looks quite a bit different in the youth area. And I'm very excited. So hopefully we can actually open the library someday and have people back in, and the kids will be very surprised to see a cute little play cottage and things that they can play with when they come back.
What % of the total cost have you collected in donations?
We have about 27.5 that we've collected so
Okay.
far, with promises for more that we just
Right.
haven't received yet.
So I would say more
Good.
than half, and then we also have the money from 250 that we had slated for that as well. So.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Beth? Anybody? Okay, well, thank you so much, Beth. And, please express our appreciation to all the staff. I know they've been doing a yeoman's job
Yes.
with curbside alone.
Board member.
I know. A future librarian.
And, keeping everything else going as well. So, just please express our appreciation.
Yeah, and I want to say a special shout out to our facilities manager, Steve. The amount of work that he's had to do during this time, and with the staff that he's is been a lot. I can't even express words at just how much work that he's been doing so that we're able to operate in the capacity that we are. So please pass that along, Greg, to Steve.
I certainly will.
Right, great. Yes. Well, thanks to all of you. And thanks for, all this information, Beth, especially those statistics. I agree with John and other board members. They're very interesting to see in these times when we're doing, a little bit different way of serving. So it's nice that people continue to value our services. Okay, we'll move on to the Finance Committee report. Kevin?
Yeah, just some high points. We did have a meeting last Wednesday. We went through the financials. The financial situation has just continues to look better as we get updates from the state on the public library fund. Lori, keep me honest here, but I think through July, the public library fund is now only about 3.5% below where it was projected to be before the pandemic.
Correct.
So that means that we've got maybe a little bit more financial flexibility than we thought we did a couple of months ago. So we did talk about a number of issues associated with that, obviously with the staff coming back. We talked about the 5% reduction that, that the permanent staff had taken, and when we can reinstate those full salaries. And then we looked at some budget issues going into 2021 as well. And some of that was compensation related too. So we covered a fair amount of ground. Unfortunately, there's still, I think, enough uncertainty with the virus and with the reopening plans and everything else that we really need a little bit more time to see how things unfold before we can make any decisions around some of those issues. But we're continuing to keep an eye on things and and adjust as we go. We talked about the levy and the levy schedule as well. And we had one resolution that I will let Lori explain when she gives her report. So those are kind of the highlights from the meeting we had.
Any questions from anybody?
One takeaway that I also had from the finance committee meeting was kind of a sense of alarm over the 5-year projection. And I know want to work at this 1 year at a time, but just seeing like kind of deficits getting run every year and the general fund like depleting over a 5-year period, that was a big takeaway that I had. And so I think that as we go forward, that's something else we'll be looking at. Obviously that ties into the levy as well.
Thank you, Stephen. Definitely is a concern, yes. Lori, do you want to share the resolution and anything else you feel like we need to know?
Well, with the PLF, in August, our payment, we received just under $282,000, and it was significantly higher than what we anticipated. And part of that was due to the tax filing deadline being extended from April to July. So we had discussed that we'll see what we get in September. I think that'll be a true indication of how we're going to continue into the fall. So we'll see what happens there. Right before this meeting, I was on a webinar regarding the CARES Act funding, and the library is going to be eligible for $75,000 grant, $25,000 per building. We're going to have to decide how we're going to use that. We can use some of it on costs we've already incurred for our PPE equipment and that. And we're also going to look at enhancing our curbside operations. We can use money for that. So there are a number of different things. So I'm in the process now of applying for that money. And they say it would be a short turnaround. So hopefully we can have that money before the end of the month or the beginning of September. We've already received $3,000 through the state library and mini grant that we can use again for anything for social distancing and personal equipment. Even storage bins that we're using to quarantine all the materials that are coming in. So that is some good news there on receiving those federal funds. Another thing.
One question, Lori, can you use that to pay for the additional staff member that's going to help with the circulation and the other stuff?
It's kind of iffy. You can only use it on things that you did not originally budget for, and you have to tie it directly to the virus. So anything I spend it on, I have to detail how it ties to the virus, whether it be like cleaning, we'd really have to be sure how we do with the salaries, because if we spend it incorrectly, then we owe that money back. So I'm going to be very careful on what we spend. So, but we can use it for unemployment that we've paid for the staff that was off. So there are a number of ways that we can attribute it to salaries and that. Another thing I wanted to discuss is we did get the certification from the county auditor for the PLF for next year. That's on page 25. You'll see our amount highlighted there. It is about 11% less than what we received this year. But I want to point out that the amount that we're going to receive January through June, we'll receive the higher amount of PLF at the 1.7, but then in July, it's going to drop to 1.6 because that was only a temporary law for the biannual state budget. So we have to hope that they pass that again come July and restore it back to the 1.7 or better. So this estimate is reflecting lower payments for the second half of the year, but I'm hoping that it will pass again and we will get more than anticipated. Is there any questions regarding the PLF?
Well, we'll have to speak to our representatives.
Yes.
Next spring about the PLF when the budget discussions begin. So I will keep that in mind. Thank you, Lori.
Mm-hmm.
know you have the resolution now.
Yes, I just want to explain about the appropriation amendments. We can't spend any money unless it's been appropriated by the board. So we do need to make some amendments to 3 funds tonight. The first is the general fund, and this is for the health insurance administrative fees. The more we use our insurance, then the higher our costs are for that program. So it has increased as we've gone on through the summer. So we need to increase that just so we can continue to pay the service fees in the general fund. The other fund, 170, the grant fund, that $3,000 is for the mini grant that we received through the state library. So we need to appropriate that so that we can start spending that. And then the Fund 250, I want to increase those appropriations by 35,000. This would be to cover the youth project. We originally only budgeted the 40,000 that was committed from the Fund 250 that the Finance Committee and the board said that we would set aside for that project. So now we're going to increase it by donation activity so that we can move forward with that project. Are there any questions?
And I would just add one thing on the health insurance admin fees. So, the costs are higher than what was originally expected. Obviously, we need to appropriate the funds to cover those costs, but we did ask that Lori and her team go back with, maybe with some help from HR to take another look at the spending on this particular program and evaluate whether we want to stick with this or consider other alternatives going forward.
And I would add, we do have a meeting scheduled for that.
Good. Well, I was going to ask that question too. I mean, it seems like a lot to have, risen. So I was wondering why, or are we looking at that to try to figure it out?
We are looking at that. It's gone from, we averaged about $4,900 we had figured a month when we originally budgeted for this, and we've gone up to as high as $7,200 for the month of June. And it is tied to usage, and they compare it to what we used to have and how much they're saving us, and then they get a percentage share of that. So we're looking into that. I mean, I've questioned it for some time, but we're locked into that contract, but we are going to consider other options for next year.
Good. I'm glad. Good to hear, I think, because that does seem I'm sure because you've already been watching it, it obviously is more than we had anticipated. Good. Okay. All right. Any other questions for Lori before we take a motion to pass the resolution? Okay. Do I have a motion to pass the resolution?
Moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, Lori and Finance Committee. Operations Committee did not meet in August. Anything we didn't really need to share anything, Peter, that you can think of?
No, we'll meet in September and report back.
Okay. All right, good. Well, I really don't have anything else, other than once again commending our phenomenal library staff. And I do, so many people that, I'm in touch with talk about how wonderful it's been and how much they appreciate what the library is doing. Of course, they're all very eager for it to open. And the branches in particular, I think a lot of people have asked me about that. So again, please express our appreciation, Beth, and members of the admin team. I mean, we appreciate you in particular, and certainly the entire staff. I don't think we have anything else that I have, at least. it seems we're moving along as best we can in these circumstances. And it will be interesting to see how things change as the fall comes. So keep us posted, Beth, about, when you feel like you'll have all the staff back and, how much you feel like you can do in terms of a soft or slow opening.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely.
Any other thoughts, questions? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, September 15th at 5 p.m. via Zoom.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great to see everybody. Take care. Stay